It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality. The XXXY chromosomes are insufficient because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Pushing that agenda onto kids and confusing people and gaslighting that, hey, XX, who knows? Maybe XY, who knows? When you start talking like that with facts and you're a respectable scientist, not only do you sound delusional, but what you sound like is someone like Leon Black, that somebody has something behind closed doors on you that's blackmailing you, that you have to now agree with these positions. For somebody to say, how the hell did you go from being a respected scientist to all of a sudden saying, one day I can wake up feeling like a female, one day I can wake up feeling like a male?
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
We had words for them. They were ridiculed, whatever. We live in a time now where people are emboldened to say, you know, today I feel part female and part male. All right? So today, in fact, I will be neutral to you. I will be androgynous. But you know something? If you're trained in this, you got to be A or B, you got to be a boy, you got to be a girl. You know what you're doing? You're taking your inability of your human mind. By the way, this is true for all human minds, because we got to categorize. We always have to categorize.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
I think a lot of people would have an issue with what you're saying, Neil, is because they see women being denied opportunities. They see an unfair playing field, metaphorically and literally speaking.
So fix the playing field, damn it. Don't say it's an unfair playing field, so all of a sudden the big issue is trans women taking the slot of a woman in an unfair playing field. Fix the playing field. And you know something? The day you fix that playing field, this conversation will look completely ridiculous. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
Sports we have men's sports and women's sports. And if the best team in the WNBA played the worst team in the NBA, the score would be 1,000,000-0. Can we organize society around that basic point with this, of course, proviso that we protect and respect people who do not fit into it?
Let's segregate society between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people, because that nature made it that way, and that's how it is.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
So let's talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson's refusal to accept the science. Okay, from Wikipedia, Neil deGrasse Tyson, born in 1958, is an American astrophysicist, author, and scientific communicator. Now, if you recognize Neil, it is probably from his work as a scientific communicator. Now, some other well-known scientific communicators are Carl Sagan and Bill Nye the Science Guy. Now, here is Neil deGrasse Tyson in his role as a scientific communicator on the show Cosmos.
All of recorded history occupies only the last 14 seconds. And every person you've ever heard of live somewhere in there. All those kings and battles.
Now, during the opening of this video, you kept seeing this clip play.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
Because it's not supposed to be about how someone feels about something. There's an objective reality that we can all pretty much agree on. Now, when it comes to biology, it's pretty objective reality. You're either X, Y, or you can be intersex. 98% of us, we can take a test and it'll pop up, hey, you're either a male or a female, and then that other 2, maybe 3% pop up intersex. So this is an objective truth, where gender isn't an objective truth. It's how you feel about your sex. You know, I'll sum it up like this. Your sex is what you are. Your gender is who you are. But now when it comes to physical competition like sports, then what you are matters. If you are a biological male, that matters. If you're a biological female, that matters. Now, why does it matter? Because men have a biological advantage over women when it comes to physical activity like sports. This is not controversial. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson accepts this fact.
But I think Serena Williams has been on record as saying that she would lose to the top 1,000 male tennis players. So my point being, you could be number 999 best in the world as a male tennis player and become immediately, if you decided to identify as a woman, the greatest woman tennis player of all time. Is that fair? I don't think it is.
Okay, so now watch. So it turns out, and I've done this, but others have done it as well, but I did it for myself to know it. If you look at world records from world-class athletes, let's say track and field, the 100 meters, men are about 10% faster. 200 meters, 10%. It fluctuates, but on average it's about 10. The marathon, the men do it about 10% faster, okay? And you look at reflexes, it's about 10% faster. Where you have the biggest differences in weightlifting, but for speed and reflexes, it's about 10% faster.
Now, 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but think about it in tennis. Serena Williams, who's the greatest female tennis player in the history of the game, would be number 1,000 if she played with the men. So that's the type of difference we're really talking about here, people. Okay, so now you have a person who's a man, and that man wants to now identify as a woman and compete with women in women's sports. Now, the answer here should be simple. We segregate sports based on biological realities. It's not about what you feel, it's about what you are.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.
So now, I've given you a lot to retain before we get to the clip. So in this clip, Bill Maher is going to push Neil deGrasse Tyson on whether biological men should be able to compete with biological women.
Scientific American, the magazine. I remember when it was around when I was
grew up with it, yeah.
Grew up with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, their editor had to quit. You saw this.
Yeah, I heard about it because she expressed some opinions, right? Yeah.
Okay, sure, but it sure didn't sound scientific. It didn't sound like the person I would want to be running Scientific American.
Okay.
It was a rant on Twitter. Okay, I could read it to you. It's really ugly. You know, I apologize to younger voters that my Gen X is so full of fucking fascists.
The editor-in-chief of Scientific American, Laura Helmuth, has stepped down after facing intense backlash over a profanity-laced tirade targeting Trump voters on election night. Helmuth announced her resignation on Blue Sky, writing, "I've decided to leave Scientific American after an exciting 4.5 years as editor-in-chief. I'm going to take some time to think about what comes next, and go birdwatching." The controversy erupted after Helmuth called Trump voters fascists and mocked their election night celebrations. In one post, she referred to them as the meanest, dumbest, most bigoted high school classmates. The backlash was swift, with critics accusing Helmuth of being a political activist rather than a neutral leader of a 179-year-old science magazine. She deleted the post and apologized on November 7th, admitting her comments were offensive and inappropriate. The post resurfaced earlier this week on X, where Elon Musk, a vocal Trump supporter, chimed in, calling Helmuth a political activist who has taken over a scientific institution. Helmuth, a cognitive neuroscience PhD, became editor-in-chief in April 2020 and previously worked for outlets like Smithsonian, Slate, and The Washington Post. She leaves behind a legacy marred by controversy.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay, I'm not a gasket right there.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not for canceling anybody on either side.
Yeah.
So But here's what I think is the scandal.
What?
This is in Scientific American.
Yeah.
Less than a year ago. Inequity between male and female athletes is the result not of inherent biological differences between the sexes, but of biases in how they are treated in sports. That's nuts. And it sure ain't scientific, and it's in Scientific American.
Now, interestingly enough, you just heard the clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson agreeing that that's not scientific. He ran the numbers himself, remember? He said, I ran the numbers. I know it's about 10%. Some is just bigger in weightlifting. He actually said that. So he knows that statement is not scientific. It's just something they're trying to push a narrative. But let's hear him respond to it, because again, he's very slimy in the way he answers these questions. You'll see what I'm saying in a second.
And that's why the Democrats lost the election. It's true.
Bill, every 20 minutes on your platform, you come up with another reason why the Democrats lost. You already have the answer. They lost the election. So anything you say is why they did it.
First of all, you don't watch this show, so you don't know that. I know you don't, and it's okay. But you talk as if you do, and you fucking don't. And that's okay. Just don't bullshit me. That's the one thing people can't ever do on this show is bullshit me. And that's fine. But I don't say that. I have very good reasons. But engage with the idea here. What I'm asking is, Scientific American is saying, basically, that the reason why an WNBA team can't beat the Lakers is because of societal bias.
What you're saying?
Now, I just want to stop it here and say again, Neil deGrasse Tyson knows that's not true. You just heard him say it, right? He knows that's not true. He knows the differences are biological, scientifically speaking. Let's see what he says.
Is not Scientific American says that. An editor for Scientific American says that, who no longer has the job. So don't indict a 170-year-old magazine because somebody.
Okay, this is called Scientific American, and they're printing something
because someone enters the cesspool that is social media and then participates in that exchange. So
why can't you
let's talk about science?
Why can't you just say this is not scientific and Scientific American should do better?
Well, does she still have her job?
No, not because of this. I said the scandal is not her tweet. The scandal,
because that was like a year ago, was it? Which one was a year ago?
I think a year ago, women still couldn't beat men in basketball or any other sport. And it wasn't because of society.
So I told you, Neil deGrasse Tyson is very slippery. But I think Bill Maher, he's trying to say, I have him here. It's not society. That's the reason a WNBA team couldn't beat an NBA team. It's biological realities. It's science. The science is the reason why, right? It's truth. And now, can Neil deGrasse Tyson just admit that truth? We've heard him actually admit it earlier, but can he admit it now? Let's see.
You don't see a problem.
By the way, long distance swimming, women might actually have the advantage. You can look into that. Yeah.
Maybe long distance swimming, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I've looked into it. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to file you under part of the problem.
Now, the craziest part about this interview is that Bill Maher and Neil deGrasse Tyson had this conversation before. And Bill Maher essentially said the exact same thing. But listen to how Neil deGrasse Tyson answered the question previously.
Sports we have men's sports and women's sports. And if the best team in the WNBA played the worst team in the NBA, the score would be 1,000,000-0. Can we organize society around that basic point with this, of course, proviso that we protect and respect people who do not fit into it?
Let's segregate society between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people because that nature made it that way, and that's how it is. So,
nature did make it that way. And it's not segregating.
Well, there was a time
segregating anything.
That attitude 150 years ago was
2 years ago.
So as you see, Neil deGrasse Tyson is now comparing it to the civil rights movement, right? If they deny men from competing with women, that's just as bad as denying blacks from using white water fountains. That's the way he's thinking of the issue. But now, watch what happens when people take that off the table and say, hey, Neil, listen, that's not what we're saying. People can do whatever they want. We're just saying in sports or in women's spaces, that's where this becomes an issue. When your biological reality, that facts, that science, differs than what you feel.
I do not know a single person who wants to prevent people from dressing how they want or behaving how they want or choosing any name that they want. However, the problem is...
So you don't... But you know such people are out there.
I'm sure such people exist in the same way that there are people who believe that the earth is flat and so on, but they're a tiny minority.
So they exist.
It is
I don't know how tiny they are, given the dialogue today.
Fair point. However, what I would say is that the conversation in the public consciousness has become prominent not between people who want to defend the right of anyone to dress how they want and the people who want to prevent that. The reason the conversation has become an issue is that we assign and allow certain privileges to people based on their sex. If you are female, you get to go to places that only other females are in, like changing rooms bathrooms and toilets and so on. If you are female, you get to compete only with people of your sex because females are at a disadvantage in physical competition to males in almost every sport. In other words, we carve out certain areas where your sex matters tremendously, even though we may respect your right everywhere else to believe that you are whatever you are, to dress however you are, etc. So your claim that today you woke up and put lipstick on and grew your hair out long and tweezed out your mustache and whatever, and therefore you are female, has an impact on other people in certain contexts in which that is a problem.
You gave only 2 contexts. Do you have others?
Sorry, I wasn't finished. And in those contexts, it is essential, people would argue, to protect women from unfair competition and from various risks for which female-only spaces already exist. That's why people are having this conversation. Okay. It's not out of bigotry.
Okay, so I think that's a fair question, right? We're taking all the bigotry off. Biological men competing with biological women in sports. There's obviously a disadvantage. What do you think, Neil? Let's see how Neil answers the question. And it's going to be important to listen to his answer because, again, he's pretty slimy when it comes to this topic.
You have more than those 2 examples, and I'll address each of those in turn. But you have more than those 2. Probably not. Okay, so let me address those 2.
What does it matter if he has more than 2? I think sports alone is big enough for you to answer the question. But again, Neil is uncomfortable with this topic, uncomfortable with this question. And instead of answering it, he's attacking the person who asked the question by asking him a question. Can you give me more than 2? Like it really even matters. But there are a whole bunch that you can give. You can talk about doctors' offices, right? You know, do now OBGYNs have to tend to trans women who are essentially biological men?
2 examples directly. I'll address them.
Sports is very important.
You said that.
Female-only spaces.
I remembered. So, but you don't seem to have a 3rd example. So, and even if you do, we presume that would be a very distant 3rd compared to those 2 cases. All right.
Okay, I'm going to say it. I don't know why he keeps asking about having a 3rd example. It doesn't matter to the conversation. So, let's see if Neil just answers the question because, again, this sounds like a lot of BS just to avoid answering the question.
There's a 3rd one I can give you very easily. In this country, for politics, we have female-only shortlists for positions in Parliament. Therefore,
I didn't know about that. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, that's another example. I can give you more. So, female-only shortlists, there are certain targets within corporations for diversity targets to have a certain number of women on the board. Therefore, when you make a claim that you are female, you are attempting, whether intentionally or not, to insert yourself into categories that are deliberately designed to protect women's interests. That is the concern that people have. So there's 4 examples for you there. Please address them.
Sure. So interesting about the Parliament. I have to look into that. So I'm wondering whether the future of those sports is you don't contest gender with gender, you contest hormone ratios.
Well, hold on a second.
But
the differences physiologically between men and women are not just hormonal. Women have a different hip angle. They have different heart capacity. They have different lung capacity. I mean, there are profound physiological differences, different bone density. We've had professional athletes on the show to talk about it.
I don't have a problem with that. So then you find ways to slice the population so that whatever the event is interestingly contested.
You know, I think it's sad because this is supposed to be a man of science and truth and facts. And I don't care about your feelings. I care about the facts. But people aren't trusting the science and the scientists as much as they did in the past because of this type of advocacy. And this advocacy goes even beyond the sheer issues in science. You know, sometimes there may be quibble over, you know, is this the right approach versus this the right approach? But in this particular case, Neil is trying to ignore the reality of the situation to push an agenda. It's like what Patrick Bet-David said.
Pushing that agenda onto kids and confusing people and gaslighting that, hey, XX, who knows? Maybe XY, who knows? When you start talking like that with facts and you're a respectable scientist, not only do you sound delusional, But what you sound like is someone like Leon Black, that somebody has something behind closed doors on you that's blackmailing you, that you have to now agree with these positions.
And I think he's right. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson has shown that the science has even been corrupted by the narrative. And the narrative here is that we want to tell you that even the science must bow to the narrative. That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson's out there trying to convince us. Even the realities that he promotes, I'm into objective truth, that too must bend the knee to the narrative that he wants to push, even when they conflict. The truth is what I tell you. All right, as always, go in the comment section and tell me where I'm wrong, because if I am wrong, I want to know why. I want to know why biological men should be able to compete against biological women. We've passed laws like Title IX specifically to stop that, specifically not to allow that. It's about biology, not about what you think about your biology. So again, let me hear it in the comment section. My name is Nick the Lawyer, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace.
It's not about feelings here. It's about objective reality.